Hey, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Friday, September the 21st. This will be our chart lesson today. It's like I said, it's Friday. Thank goodness I'm ready for this week to be over. I'm doing the chart lesson a little bit early today. The market hasn't closed yet, but my son has a ball game that's out of town today, and I'm planning on being at his game tonight, so I got to leave the office a little bit early. It's about a little over an hour drive to where he's playing tonight, so I'm wrapping this up early, calling it an early weekend, and hope everybody had a good trading week. And we'll go over the trades real quick. It was all downhill today, but man, was it brutally slow, and you had to be really patient. But there was, when you go back and look at it after the fact, there's nothing different from today than any other day, except for the fact that it was really slow. And we really noticed how every time we had a sell-off, we'd have a little congestion area right here. Then we sold off again right here. And this is where I exited one of my runners. I had a runner going that I held, and there was actually an overnight gap right here, and that's why I exited right there. You can see that's where we opened, right there at that area, after the close yesterday, and so that's where I exited, and luckily I was able to get out with actually I think it bounced and I just closed it, so I missed it by one tick. Bounced off my order and didn't fill it, so I just closed it when it kept bouncing on it a couple of times. So, and came within one tick of my target, and if I'd have held it, could have got some more, but I didn't want to be greedy because we had filled that gap. And prices struggled so much to come down. But let me show you a couple of things, and we'll go over the trades. I got a lot of emails today from several different people that were struggling today, and I can understand why, because these look like, and really, let me show you this. There's really real strong support right across here, and so we were really stuck in this trading range for a little bit of time. And so when we bounced right here and we went higher and we were trying to go higher, I was tempted to close my trade, but I really felt, you got to think we're coming to fill this gap down here because it's very rare, and especially since it's all downhill. But there just wasn't a lot of volume from right here. That's about a 2-hour span right in there, and there's not many bars. It was right around lunchtime, right before lunchtime, through lunchtime, and it was tough to sit through that. I almost closed my trade and called it a day right there, but I said, no, you know what? The trend is down. Everything's still below the trend line. We've had no break of it yet. It's just going to take a little while to work through this strong support, and once we work through it, you see we tested it several times back up here before we actually sold off again. And so it was just tough trading. But let me show you this. I talked about this yesterday. I think I've talked about this several times this week, and you got to remember this. It's important that you remember this. On a trend day, how do you trade a trend day? You're looking for setups during pullbacks to the EMA or the trend line, and you got to get good setups. So and remember what I talked about when you enter short. Let's say we want to enter short right here. This is not a good setup, and you notice I waited till the second entry, and again, this is not a good setup. There's only one leg really on the way up there, and you probably get two legs. So then you had a second leg right there. That could have been good enough, but look where you got to get short, way down here right there, and there's not room to scalp out. So I waited, and it pulls back again, and then suddenly, bam, now you got a chance to get in there, and you got room to scalp out. Plus now you got a double top. Notice that there's a double top just about every time right there. You need the right kind of setup, and this one could have fooled you right here. And actually I drew this circle big enough you can see that really the ideal way to enter this one was to have you a limit order right here, and but that necessarily wasn't real good because we weren't back to the trend line or the EMA. So But if you had to enter here, that's the only way to enter, because by the time you get to here and you try to enter, then you're too close to the lows again. So it's not a good entry, although it does meet our criteria because it's a two-legged pullback to the EMA and trend line. But as long as you kept your stop above that signal bar, which is right there, you were safe. But the reason I didn't enter right there is because there's not enough room to scalp out, and it had taken forever to work down here, and we didn't work very far, and we're stuck in the same kind of rut again. And so you know it's going to take a little while to work lower. Evidently there's lots of buying going on at these lows each time. But it's really tough when it's slow like this, I know, because you get antsy and you want to enter, and you think that, you all of a sudden you see a move and you think, okay, they got them trapped. And then all it does is trap you, and it goes higher again. But that's why this is what I call all this stuff in here is just noise. And the trend was still down. We were still working down, but we're stuck in all this noise. So you can't let the noise stop you out. You got to at least stay above your signal bar. This is your signal bar right here if you entered there. So you got to keep your stop above that. That's the logical place. Now if prices break above that, then you got to consider that, hey, maybe we're going the other way. But until that happens, this is where your stop goes, somewhere up here, because this is where it's happening. You notice we came back right to that area again and then turned down. So again, if you enter below that bar, your stop has to go up here above this double top. And if you did, notice it never got tested again, and it was all downhill from there. And then again, right here, you pull back. If you entered below that bar, which it wasn't a good thing because there's not much room to get out, because this is not a real, even though we're trending down and it's moving pretty good, it's not a strong downtrend. It's really working hard to get down there. And so on days like that, now if this was a real strong trend where every time you pulled back, prices just rocketed lower, then by all means enter below that bar. But on a day like this where it's just brutally slow working down, you got to be careful. You got to get in at the very highs, and if you're not sure where those are, you're in trouble. And there's going to be somewhere probably along the trend line. You can see that where all the highs were today were along that trend line. And if you entered anywhere else, you were suspect to get stuck for a while, and you just had to be patient and leave your stop up here above these highs. And that's the only way to trade that. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But notice what would happen. You would make a high right here, but every time you would come back and test it again. And when this one never went lower, so you never got fooled by this one, but then it went up again, and you definitely didn't want to get fooled to the long side. No reason to be looking for a long there. And then it turned back down. So there's your nice place to go short. And again, there's not a lot of room before you reach the low, but you've got enough going on here where it's probably safe. And actually, again, you probably should have dropped a limit order right here. When it ticked higher, you would have been short right here, and you could have got out easily. So that's generally the way I try to enter those. But I was still managing another trade, and I didn't enter any new trades because I just couldn't take any more of this. I was about ready to close it. So I was really hoping once we broke lower here, it may rocket on down and fill that gap. And it did, but it still took a little work to get down there. And then you got to figure, hey, we may get some more because we really haven't gotten to this side of the trend channel yet. And notice we bounced off of it right there. But you got to wait till it comes back. And we were continually coming off the high side of it, but we couldn't get to the low side of it. So you got to figure we're probably still going lower, and unless we get a trend line break and a retest and then a move to the other side. So it's all about being patient and waiting on the right setup and not being too eager to enter because you're bored from sitting there all that time. And I actually was tempted right here to add on a couple of times, but I kept telling myself, don't do it, just sit tight. And because you never know, we could have bounced out of there because that support was so strong. We could have bounced out of there, and it could have just ended up being a range day, and we might have been back up here testing this range again. But by the time we tested this a couple more times and then these two times, then when it came back here, you should, not only is this a pullback to the EMA and the trend line again, it's a retest of this breakout area right here. And if you draw that line across there, you can see that. We can just get rid of that one, but I put that there because I wanted to show you. Notice what happened each time So going back to my original statement, on a day like this where prices are trending down, you shouldn't be looking to buy at all. Of course, you could have bought these fairly easily, but you shouldn't be looking to buy. You need to be looking to sell, and you need to be waiting on reversal type patterns that happen at either the EMA or the trend line. And here you are back to the EMA, but there's no reversal pattern in there. That's just overlap and chop. Not a good place. Again, it comes up here. There's no real good setup until right here when you got a double top. And notice how nothing can close above that trend line. That's a good sign. So, and you see we're really going lower now. It's getting close to the close, and they're driving it on down there now. So this actually might be more like that right there. That's what it's looking like. It looks like it's going to close back up inside there. So we'll see. But anyway, another thing you can do is do like I did right here. I drew this trend line. We got a break, a retest, and then sold off. And here's another one right there. You got a break, a retest, and then sold off. So, you know, you can use these trend lines even on this short-term stuff. And there you go. You got a break, a retest, and then it sold off. So, you know, you can even draw your trend lines like that. And here, same thing working down, even though the trend's down. Let me show you this. You got a little trend line right there. You got a break, a retest twice, and then prices went up. So draw your little short-term trend lines if you need to, because that will definitely help you. And you could have even seen this one like that right there. But still, you got a break, a retest, sell off, another retest, and then it sold on off. So draw those little trend lines. I bet you can even find one right here. You got a break, a retest, and then look, it sold off. So these trend lines work even on short term. You know, it doesn't always, it's not as easy to see, but if you draw your trend line, it'll help you. So keep that in mind, and look for your break, and then a retest, and then try to join in with the trend, and maybe that'll help you. But generally, you can just see it by watching the retest of this breakout. This was a double retest of, these are all double retests of the trend line. So but let's talk about the trades. This was the first one right after the open. Notice you got a first entry long, a second entry long. It failed right at the open there, right after the open. You got to figure prices are probably coming back down here to test this area in here, maybe even all the way down here. And notice this is a failed breakout too. So you're going to get at least two legs. And if you draw that first, oops, I don't know what happened there. Draw that first leg, then your little correction, then your second leg, and there it is. So that's what I was looking for. And so that was a nice short. And then we went into all this chop. And notice we got a double top. We got that one tick. That's a great place to drop a limit order. And figuring that prices are going to always fail and pull back first, and then look at that nice sell-off. Boom. And then we make a double bottom down here, and then prices correct all the way back to the trend line. And you know, you could have even had this thing drawn like that right there. And that even looks better. I'm thinking that's even more likely because you got more touches of the low side there. But you know, as long as you know it's down here in this area, and that looks pretty good right there to me. So but anyway, back to the trades. Then you got to work back up. Then you got a double top here, and I tried to get in with a limit order here, but it never would tick up, and so I just entered right here. This was another nice little easy trade, and look where it went, right to the previous lows, and then it bounced. And so you know, you got to be prepared for that. And then this was the one that was so difficult. Let me see, this range started at about 11:20, and it lasted till 1:20. That's 2 hours right there, and you can see there's not a lot of bars in there. So that was really brutal right there, and that's where I was managing that runner. I was still managing a runner right there, and I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should exit, but I liked what I saw. I knew the gap was down here. I expected we were going to try to fill it, and so I told myself to hang on, and then I almost added on right in here, and I'm glad I didn't. But it worked out okay. It moved on down here, and I exited, and then I was done for the day. But there was another couple of entries here. Again, you had this one. Let me get that out of the way. You had this one entry right here, but it's so far from the high, and it's so close to the low that it was really suspect. So if you didn't get in here with a limit order up here higher, it was better to wait and let that double top form, and maybe you could have entered either right there or right here, but if none of those, you could have entered again right here, and because now you got your high, and then you got two tests of it that made a lower double top, and so you got a failed second entry long again, so you got trapped longs. So another chance to get short right there. And this is just a breakout pullback short, so again, you could have gone short right there, but it was risky because we'd filled the gap now, and you got a lot of overlap, but you see prices continue to sell them off, and we did close back inside that channel. So I'm still thinking that was my original thoughts. That's probably it. You can see we broke below it, but we closed back inside it. So but that was it for today. There weren't but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really good entries, and there were some, like I said, there were some counter trend longs in here, but it's just not worth it. It's not worth fooling with. So you're better off to wait on the short setups, and hopefully you could see that we're making lower. Look how each of these highs is lower than the previous highs all the way down through here, and you're making lower lows for the most part. This low's lower than that one, this one's lower than that one, this one's lower, this one's lower than that one, this one's lower than that one. So you're making lower lows and lower highs, and you've pretty much got a channel here. So you got to be aware of those things, and you got to follow them. And the main thing is just don't get antsy. I mean, it was hard for me. It was really hard for me not to do something right in here, but I kept telling myself, just be patient, just be patient. If it turns up, you can exit, and that'll be that. But sorry I had an interruption there. But anyway, I feel like I'm just rambling now. I think I've beat a dead horse here. Hopefully you can see that now after the fact. I know it was probably hard to see during the fact, but you got to find these trend lines. You got to find these support and resistance areas. And remember, I'm going to say this and I'm wrapping it up. When the market is trending, you're looking for reasons to get short, which are pullbacks to the EMA, the trend line, and it's double tops, failed breakouts, things like that to the high side. Yesterday we were looking for all this stuff to the low side. Come back over here yesterday, you see we were going up, and so we were looking for these double bottoms and failed breakouts to the low side, and that gets everybody. We did this really for a couple of days almost. See how we're constantly chopping up, and it gets everybody lulled to sleep thinking every time you hit some support area it's going to go up. Well, today it was just the opposite. Every time you hit the high areas, it was time to sell because we were in a downtrend. So you got to figure out, you got to find the trend and what kind of day it is. And it would have been easy to get confused here. I see that because this looks a lot like a trading range, especially with these lows. But notice how prices weren't, prices were coming down here and hitting and bouncing a little bit, but they weren't coming out of there. They did off this one. But notice how on this one they didn't, and that's a sign. And right here we didn't bounce out of there. This is what you want to see when prices come down and they make a low and they just shoot higher and they keep going. Well, you're not getting that here. So that's acceptance of prices at these lows, and it just takes a while to. Really, there just wasn't any volume right in there, and you see that a lot on Friday. I've seen days like that, and by the end of the day, you aren't but you're still in that range just right out here. So, but again, I'm carrying this on too long. I'm gonna wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I'll see you next week.